Hi, this is a Blender lesson on basic navigation and tools. So your screen should start off looking something like this or pretty close. And we're going to take a quick look at the rubric. You need to learn how to change the viewport views. This is the viewport. And in order to change the views, you need to make sure your mouse pointer is in the view. If you're over here, it's going to have no effect or change something that you're not intending.
This is important.
Everything is very context sensitive in Blender. So it depends on which viewport you're in. These are also called viewports. And the keys in the viewports will matter. Okay, I'm going to be pressing keys on the numpad. It's important that you use the numpad and not the keyboard numbers. So when I say keypad, I mean this and not the numbers over here. Okay, so we're going to go for top view, and that's the 7 key on the numpad. And we are looking down the Z axis, which is the blue axis. And I'm going to press 3 on the numpad. This is the right perspective, and we're looking down the x-axis, which is the red one. And if I press 1 on the numpad, we're looking along the green axis, the y-axis. Okay, we also have 0, which is the camera perspective. So it's good to press 0 to see how you're framing your scene, to make sure your object appears fully in the view, or if you don't want it fully in the view, that's fine too. But you should know what it looks like before you start rendering, because rendering takes a bit of time depending on whether you're rendering just a scene or a whole animation. Let's go back to the top view. You can use the 4 and 6 keys to rotate, and the 2 and 8 keys to rotate as well. Now, every once in a while, people forget that they're supposed to use the numpad. So for instance, if I press 7 on the keyboard, everything disappears. That's because our object is in the first layer. And when you're pressing the keyboard, you're changing layers. We have nothing in layer 7, so there's nothing on our scene. So if you accidentally press the keyboard numbers, just press 1 and you'll get your objects back. Okay, next thing on our list. Okay, so I've already shown you some rotations using the numpad. We just hold down the middle mouse button and we can rotate. Okay, we rotate around our object. Now, sometimes you can have more things on your screen, so let me just add something here. I'm going to just duplicate the object. So I move the second cube off the screen. So rotating isn't going to help me all the time. I need to pan, and what I'm doing is holding the shift key. And the shift key will allow me to pan from one object to another object. And if I pan over here, let go of the shift key, now I'm rotating around this object. I'm still using the middle mouse button to pan and rotate. Size, hide, show, tool shelf, and transform panel. Okay, so the tool shelf is already on here. To make it go away so you have a larger viewport, press T. Press T to bring it back. Another way to bring it back is to press on this plus sign. Okay. And over here, we have our transform panel. This one is toggled by the N key. And notice that my mouse pointer is in the viewport. So if you press N in another viewport or T in another viewport, it won't work. Okay, another handy thing that's not on the rubric, but you need to be able to zoom in and out of your viewport. So just use the mouse wheel. Unfortunately, in the lab, some of our mouse wheels are broken, and the way to compensate for this, okay, on the Mac, you can hold the Shift key and click the middle mouse button and it'll work. It doesn't work like this on the PC. The other way to get it to zoom in and out is to use the numpad, the plus and minus keys. Okay, it only works with the numpad. It doesn't work on the regular keyboard portion. Now, occasionally, you will find that you're not able to zoom in and out anymore. That's because you've done a whole bunch of transformations. And to make it so that you can zoom again, you want to select your object and then press the period on the numpad. And then you'll be able to zoom in and out again. So if I select this one, press the numpad, period, and I can zoom in and out again. And I can rotate around that object. So what the period key does is to focus on one object. So period, and I can zoom in and around and rotate and pan on this object. Okay, next item, we want to be able to add more viewports and remove viewports. I'm going to just turn off these transform panels and tool shelf. So these little triangles here allow you to manipulate your viewports. Okay, so I have another viewport and I can split this one up too. To remove the viewports, we just drag the triangle into the previous viewport. And you have to remove them on a viewport that has the same width or height. If I'm merging with this one, it has to have the same width. I can't merge this viewport with this viewport because they don't have the same height. So it doesn't work this way. It only works this way. Okay, and now these two have the same height, so I can move to the right and join the viewports. Okay, and I think I've gone over save and load in a previous video, and I've done undo steps in a previous video, and this one has also been done in a previous video. Copy texture files. I'm not on the network right now, so I can't show you this, but you need to go to the shared folder and copy the texture files from ICT 11 and 12 and copy it onto your local drive. And it's important that you copy it into the folder where you're doing your Blender work so you have the same directory structure that I have. That way I will be able to render with the textures that you're using. This is in case you forget to pack your data. And to pack your data, you want to go to File, you want to go down to External Data, and automatically pack into your Blender file. The only problem with this is it tends to make your Blender files very large. If you have one that's too large, then again, copy the texture files. We'll have the same directory structure and we won't have to worry about that. Okay, one last thing about viewports. Sometimes people make all their viewports combine and they lose it all. So you can recreate this, just drag a new viewport in. This top one is called Info. That gives you your menus. This one was outliner, and this panel was split, and this one is properties. And then bring this one down, and you can resize these by going on the boundary. And this one was your 3D view. And that completes this lesson.